Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so I've made a podcast all about the Pokémon trading card game. But you're not listening to PTCGRadio. You are looking at round 4 from the Nottingham Regionals that happened this past weekend in the middle of March 2015, right after the release of the new Primal Clash set. On the left, we have the lovely Ryan Moorhouse, who is going to be playing Yveltal, Seismitoad, Garbodor. And on the right, we have a lovely chap called Mark, who is going to be playing Mega Groudon. One of the new decks, which has come about after the release of the Primal Clash set. Now, before they get going here, I just want to give a quick reminder to, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube, make sure you comment and like and tell your friends and all of that. This is round 4. We will have games going up from rounds 5, 6 and 7, as well as top 8, top 4 and the final of this particular tournament. Now, we are in round 4 here, so I'm assuming both these players are 3-0 at the time. So, hopefully we'll have two good players with good decks, and this will be a fairly enjoyable match. I should just give a quick shout out to Wakefield TCG. You can see their logo in the bottom right hand corner. And specifically to Matt Blower and Terry Goodacre. They are the people who both recorded this and got me the footage so I could commentate over it and pop it on the YouTube channel. So we get going, and Ryan has won the flip and is going first. And he has got a Seismitoad active to Mark's Groudon EX, and he gets an Yveltal on the bench, nice and quickly. And he also gets another Seismitoad down. Seismitoad, remember, has got the attack Quaking Punch for 1 double colourless energy, which allows somebody to essentially do 30 damage, but more importantly, to block trainers. And he gets a computer search there right off the bat, and presumably, as he's got no hand now, he'll be going for a Professor Juniper. By the way, if they play a Sycamore, I'm calling it a Juniper. And that Juniper is going to allow him to discard his entire hand, which is, of course, nothing, because he has no hand. Well, it will be 1 Juniper, and then he'll get to draw up to 7. Now, you'll notice that Ryan has attached a Dark Energy there, not a double colourless. Now, partly this is because he, of course, didn't have a double colourless in his hand. But this is a good play anyway, because this is Ryan's first turn of the game. It is the very first turn of the game. You can attack on turn 1 and Enhance Tammer, which automatically discards double colourless or any other special energy. They are all over the place at the moment. So it's prudent to, if you don't have to put the double colourless energy down, don't. Ryan's almost certainly going to hit an energy next turn. So Mark starts off, he also plays his own Juniper, but not before he attaches an energy and plays Silent Lab, which is a stadium card which blocks all abilities of basic Pokemon. So presumably Mark's not playing any basic Pokemon with abilities. Ryan, we're imagining, will be playing a Jirachi, but that's it. Jirachi having the ability Stardust Song, which basically allows you to search your deck for a supporter card. And Ryan won't be able to play Jirachi if he's got no other supporter in his hand, although he's clearly got an N there. And he plays the N straight away. You'll see Mark has managed to get a Spirit Link on the Groudon EX. That means he can Mega Evolve it into Primal Groudon, and whereas Mega Evolving will usually make you end your turn, that's not the case if you have a Spirit Link tool attached. Now, Mark's also put a Landorus on the bench. Landorus has an attack for 20 damage for just 1 fighting energy, and it allows you to attach a fighting energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. Clearly, Mark would like these Pokemon reordered. He wants the Landorus active, attacking while he puts energy onto the benched Groudon. That's ideally what he's going to be wanting to do here, because he doesn't really want the Groudon active until he has to. But we see a Quaking Punch there for 50 damage, as Mark attaches a Strong Energy, which means that Groudon's first attack, which is for 2 energy, will do 50 damage, and on a coin flip, will force Ryan to discard 1 energy attached to Seismitoad. Now, we see a Colress for 4 on turn 2, which is not ideal. Colress is one of these supporters. You shuffle your hand in and draw as many cards as both players have bench Pokemon. And you want to be doing it mid to late game for 7 to 10 Pokemon. You don't want to be doing it on your second turn for 4 cards. But hey-ho, that's what he's had to do, and there's nothing else. So he's going to flip for the attack, and it looks like it's a Tails, so Ryan is going to be able to keep his energy here. Now, Ryan here is just going to be wanting to build up behind the Seismitoad. Leave the Seismitoad there, using Quaking Punch, doing 50 damage, blocking his trainers, and building up on the bench. Either an Yveltal EX just for a big attack, but it doesn't look like he's got any energy at all. Or maybe attaching to an Yveltal, because the baby Yveltal's first attack does 30 damage and attaches an energy from the discard to a bench Pokemon. Very much like the Landorus does, in fact. And so if he's set up behind the Yveltal, then he would be able to essentially attack with Yveltal while he attaches extra energy to the benched Yveltal EX. So you see then Ryan's done another 50 damage, and Mark has done the attack a second time, putting him on 60 damage total, but he has been able to he's been able to hit heads there and to get the energy off him. Now he benches a Horlicher there, which is a very interesting Pokemon, and he gets the Primal Groudon. Does he have a 4th energy? That's what he does have the 4th energy. Primal Groudon has 1 attack for 4 energy, which does 100 damage or 200 if there's a stadium in play and you discard the stadium. He brought up the Yveltal EX there and did the attack for 200 damage, and that was absolutely the right play. Primal Groudon has an almost ludicrous, I think it's 240 HP. That means it's going to survive quite a few Quaking Punches. But Yveltal EX's attack Evil Ball, which does 20 damage, plus 20 for each energy attached to each active Pokemon for just 2 Dark Energy, will KO a Pokemon like Groudon very quickly because you've got to have 4 energy attached to you. You're adding 80 damage to the attack. So, you know, that's why Mark wanted to get rid of the Yveltal, and playing the Lysandre to grab the Yveltal was the right play there. Now, Ryan here, like I've said, he's got 2 choices. He can set up, and there goes a Jirachi now the Silent Lab has gone out of play. He needs to set up an Yveltal EX, because that's what it's really going to come down to. If Mark carries on like he is, and is able to use Groudon EX's attack, Primal Groudon EX's attack for 200 damage every turn, he's going to win this very, very quickly. He can KO 2 more EXs, and that will be game. In fact, if he's got Lysandre for a couple of turns, he's going to be alright. As Ryan there goes for a chorus, and he's going to get 7, which is much, much better. Ryan now needs to get rid of the Groudon, and the chances are he's going to be able to before Mark's taken 4 prizes. Now, he can't really put Seismitoad active. Seismitoad's already got 100 damage on, so Mark doesn't even need a stadium in play to KO that Seismitoad. It will just do 100 without the stadium in play, or 120 actually, because he's got a strong energy on, and that's going to get the KO. So Ryan now is essentially forced to use Baby Yveltal, doing 30 damage and attaching an energy to his bench Pokemon, and what he really wants to do is attack with Baby Yveltal while he builds up a benched Yveltal EX so that he can Evil Ball for a load of damage. Now here he's able to put the Seismitoad in the active position again, so he is going to use the Seismitoad, and he is going to do another fair amount of damage here, and I can't see exactly how much that is. It looks like 140 damage we've got on there. No, sorry, it should be at least 150 damage. And the chances are here that, you know, he's going to lose that Seismitoad. Although there only looks like there's 40 damage on there. We'll have a look at that in a second. But the chances are that Seismitoad is going down. And Mark's going to... There we go. Yes, there was more damage than that on there. I was right, there was 100 damage. Someone had moved the 6. So now Mark's down to 2 prizes, but that's Groudon's going down. That Groudon isn't going to last very much longer. And the real challenge here is going to be getting the second Primal Groudon. Because although Groudon does, you know, he basically one-hits everything, and there we see an end to 2, which is very, very useful for Ryan. Although Primal Groudon is going to one-hit KO everything, if you can keep your stream of stadiums up, of course, it takes 4 energy. And you see Mark doesn't really have very much of anything else there. Ryan is... Now, if Ryan doesn't get rid of this Primal Groudon this turn, and Mark's able to get a Lysandre from this end to 2, Mark's going to win on the next turn of the game, bringing up a... Well, he could even bring up a Jirachi. He doesn't need even a stadium. But... And he looks like he's got a Sycamore in hand there, so he's going to be alright. So there he puts up the Yveltal, and it looks like he's got enough damage there to get the KO. So now he's lost the first Primal Groudon EX, and now here comes the countdown essentially. What does he have? That Horlicher EX is, the Horlicher non-EX is good because it does 60 damage for a single fighting energy, but Only 2 EX Pokemon. Now he can try and 2-hit KO an EX on the bench, or even grab a strong energy Muscle Band to KO the Jirachi, which has 90 HP, but we haven't seen him play any Muscle Bands yet. And if he doesn't play Muscle Band, it means the most damage he can do of a Horlicher in one turn is 80 damage, which isn't going to be enough to KO the Jirachi. So Mark's in a little bit of a hole here. He really needs to get a second Primal Groudon up, but that's going to take a bunch of turns. It's going to take 4 energy. Ryan's now got 4 prizes left, and crucially, he's got an Yveltal EX with an energy on. Now, there's a Scorched Earth, which is interesting for Mark. It allows him to discard a fighting energy and draw 2 cards. It's going to help him get set up, which is going to be very, very useful. But here, although Mark took the first 4 prizes and had all the early momentum, it really looks like Ryan is in the better position here. Mark's deck really revolves around Primal Groudon. You need Primal Groudon up to be one-hit KOing. Horlicher can be useful, and regular Landorus doesn't really do much damage at all. In fact, that regular Yveltal has actually got a resistance to fighting, which means Landorus is doing approximately nothing with its first attack. And you see that he's even manually attaching to a Landorus, not to a Primal Groudon, or even a Groudon EX. And this is really, really bad, because if we look at Ryan's board there, he's got the baby Yveltal, who's going to be doing a fair bit of damage. You're not 50 damage, but it's still going to chip away. Ryan's going to be playing Laser in Verbank City Gym, and he's starting to build up an Yveltal EX on the bench. And he's only got 4 prizes left, and that's the real danger for Mark here. Now, as Ryan's going to play an Ultra Ball here, presumably just basically thinning his deck. There isn't much else he needs. All Ryan needs here is to keep up a steady stream of energy. Although he could do with getting a second Yveltal EX down, because what he doesn't want to happen is have his only Yveltal EX KO'd by a Primal Groudon that comes out. Now, Primal Groudon has an interesting ancient trait called Omega Barrier, and what this does is it stops any supporters or item cards affecting Primal Groudon, which means if Mark has a Primal Groudon on the bench, Ryan isn't able to use Lysandra to bring it up into the active position and start killing it. But of course, Mark can't Primal Evolve him until he's been down for a turn, so if he puts him down, Ryan's still going to have a turn to do that. We see a Laser and a Head putting the Landorus asleep, and we saw that Ryan searched out a Darkrai there. Now, Darkrai obviously dodgy in this matchup because it's weak to fighting and is easily killed. You know, Primal Groudon wouldn't need a Stadium out in order to one-hit KO a Darkrai. But it gives everything in Ryan's deck free retreat, and that's going to be, as long as they've got a Dark Energy attached, and that's going to be useful. Now, the interesting thing here is Silent Lab. If Mark were able to find a Silent Lab, then he'd be able to KO Darkrai using Horlicher. Horlicher has an ability which means that you don't take account of weakness and resistance when calculating the damage done by Horlucha, which means Horlucha would do 60 damage to a Darkrai. But if Mark puts down a Silent Lab, and we've already seen that he plays it, that turns off Horlicher's own ability, meaning he now does hit Darkrai for weakness. Having said that, it makes no real difference, because if he can do 90 damage to a Darkrai, he can do 90 damage to a Jirachi and kill that for his last 2 prizes. So there was no downside to Ryan playing the Jirachi there. He already had an effective 90 HP Pokemon. Putting down another made no difference. Now we see Ryan there brings up the Yveltal, and this is really the beginning of the end for Mark here, because there's very little Mark can do. Now, Horlicher does, as I say, it goes through resistance, so he's going to do 60 damage to Yveltal, but with Horlicher at the moment, he's free-hit KOing the Yveltal. Even if he gets a strong energy on that Horlicher and a strong energy on the following Horlicher, he's still only doing 160. He's still free-hit KOing the Yveltal. And he's going to need to draw 3 Horlichers in a row, and he's going to need to draw 2 strong energy. And by that point, Ryan is... I mean, in theory, he could win that way, as long as Ryan didn't retreat and use another attacker. That really is what Ryan needs to do here. He needs to go aggro Horlicher, and he needs to try and get his strong energy. I haven't seen any Muscle Band here, and that really is going to hurt him. Because if he had a strong energy Muscle Band Lysandra, he'd be able to use Horlicher and call up either the Jirachi or the Darkrai, and he'd be able to take game. It's not an ideal strategy, energy, but as a last ditch, that's about the only way Mark could win here, and it looks like this is fairly inevitable at this stage. Now, the one thing Mark does have going for him here is those Robo Substitutes. They are trainer cards that act like 30 HP Pokemon, and when they get KO'd, you don't give up a prize. And that's one of the tenets of Mark's deck. He can set up either behind a Landorus, doing 20 damage, attaching fighting energy to the bench, or he can set up behind a Robo Substitute. And then he gets the 4 energy on the Primal Groudon, and he goes ahead and wins, and life is good. Because like I say, it's the first Primal Groudon, and very clever play from Ryan here. He brings up the Yveltal. There is nothing on Mark's bench that can hurt that Yveltal at the moment. Hawlucha doesn't affect EXs. Landorus does 20 damage, and Yveltal has a resistance of 20 to fighting, and Groudon needs 2 energy. So by that Robo Substitute's only got 30 HP. So by taking the KO with regular Yveltal, Ryan's basically saying, come at me, bro. Because what's he going to do? There's nothing Mark's got there that can actually attack that Yveltal. Ryan is still down to 3 prizes, and at this stage, it really does look like an inevitability. If Mark genuinely believes he can get another Primal Groudon out with 4 energy, or if he believes that he can 2-hit KO using Lysandra, either the Jirachi or the Darkrai, he'd have to drag them both up twice in order to get the KO. Or he believes he can, 3-hit KO an Yveltal EX, and as we've seen, he's not going to be able to because Ryan's just going to retreat it. That's how Ryan's going to win. That's how Mark's going to win. Either he's going to need a Fighting Energy Muscle Band to call up the Jirachi Darkrai, or he's going to need to double Lysandra, a Darkrai, and a Jirachi. Because if he tries doing the whole 3-hit KO thing I mentioned on an Yveltal EX, Ryan's just going to retreat and attack with Baby Yveltal. So, or maybe Mark believes he's got enough Robo Substitutes left so that he can get 4 energy on that Primal Groudon before it gets KO'd. They are essentially the 3 win conditions for Mark here. They are the 3 ways he can win this game. 1 Robo Substitute isn't going to do it. He needs another 3 turns. And bearing in mind, he's going to need a Lysandra, because if he doesn't kill that benched Yveltal, the benched Yveltal will kill him straight away. Now, here's the problem. Ryan's now going to take a prize and go down to 2. Mark's going to attach a second energy. Ryan's going to take a prize and go down to 1. Mark's going to attach a third energy. Ryan's going to win the game before Mark has attached that 4th energy. Unless Mark's got other Robo Substitutes or something along those lines, there's very little he's going to be able to do here. And unless he drops a Robo Substitute now, this game is effectively over. Hopefully he's got one of them. And there we see the Landorus, and there's a VS Seeker there. If he doesn't have a Robo Substitute, he's not going to win this game. Ryan is taking a prize every turn at this stage. It's going to happen. Now, that Yveltal has a second attack for 100 damage, and in the Muscle Band it does 120, so he's even 1-hit KOing a Landorus here. So like I say, Mark had essentially 3 ways to win. Use Muscle Band Strong Energy to KO the Darkrai or Jirachi, which he doesn't seem to play Muscle Band, or double Lysandra to KO the Jirachi or Darkrai in 2 hits, or stall long enough with Robo Substitutes, and it had to be Robo Substitute to play Prize Denial against Ryan in order to get 4 energy on his Primal Groudon. None of those 3 things has happened, which does, I'm afraid, lead me to question why Mark hasn't scooped yet. This is a best of 3 50-minute game, and this game's been going on for a little while now. Mark, in order to win the series and not draw, is going to have to win 2 games outright. Now, Mark might be thinking, oh, this is a bad matchup for me. I'm going to play this one out to try and get a win in game 2. If I can get a win in game 2, that's going to lead to a draw overall. And that's not a bad plan, but this shouldn't be a terrible matchup for Primal Groudon. You get set up, and you get 2 set up, and you go. And you set up behind Robo Substitute and Landorus and all of that. But at this stage, either Mark is playing for the draw And if he's not playing for the draw, he really needs to scoop. And in round 4 of a 7-round tournament, it's really a bit too early to be playing for the draw. Unless he really, really doesn't like the matchup and he just wants to lose game 1 as quickly as he can, as slowly as he can, to try and win game 2 and win the series overall. Because it's been a few minutes since it was inevitable, at least since Mark knew. I was asking these questions about does he have Muscle Band, does he have 2 Lissandras he can use, etc. Mark would have known the answers to those questions. So, assuming he doesn't, Mark's known, or should have known for a few turns now, that this was futile. So, either he's playing it out because he wants to lose game 1 slowly to try and win game 2 and draw the series overall, or he should have scooped by now. Ryan, on the other hand, is sitting pretty. At this stage, there really is nothing Mark can do. This game is over. There's no conceivable win condition here, unless, because Ryan's got the win on the next turn of the game. Now, he can put the Primal Groudon EX up, but that's not going to do anything, because Ryan's going to kill it long before Mark's got 4 energy on it, and his only attack works for 4 energy. So, at this stage, Ryan has won the game, and Ryan's in no hurry here. It's a best of 3. Ryan is all in favour of this, because if game 2 doesn't end, then it's counted as not happening. And if game 2 doesn't happen, Ryan wins the series 1-0 and goes on, presumably, into 4-0. However, being 3-0-1 at the end of 4 rounds, I can think of much worse positions to be in. And if that is what Mark is playing for, then quite frankly, kudos to him. Now, one thing that's interesting here is that Ryan is an exceptional player. Now, that on its own isn't interesting. This is his 2nd year in Masters. He was winning everything in seniors. I think he bubbled Worlds in Masters last year and is already got his invite and is going for top 22 in Europe this year to get a paid invite. And the reason that's interesting is because it couples with the fact that he is playing Darkrai, Yveltal, Seismitoad, Garbodor. Darkrai's more of a tech. Yveltal, Seismitoad, Garbodor. Because this is a deck which has started to be favoured by really, really good players, exceptional players, if you will. And I think the reason for this is the versatility. You can pop Garbodor down and block abilities against things like Fairies or Metal or Virizion Genesect to turn off Red Signal to make sure that your lasers are able to go through Virizion's body. Or you can go for the Trainer Lock with Seismitoad and slow the game right down while you set up big Yveltals to do huge attacks, like we saw him do a little bit in the previous game. Or you can just go full-on aggro Yveltal and just be using, Evil Ball or Wise Cyclone from turn 2 and just essentially smashing as we go along. And there's a lot of different options he's got there. And that's what a lot of the top players like to do. It's a strong deck, it's a consistent deck, it's a well-known deck. It's been around for long enough that people have learned how to build it and the lists are basically set. And Ryan is basically saying, I'm playing the best deck and I'm willing to bet that if I play against someone else with an equally good deck, I am going to be able to beat them on playstyle alone. I'm going to be a better player than them. Bold statement. Mark, on the other hand, has gone for the completely different, it's the new fancy deck. And nobody knows how this deck works yet. Nobody knows the best way to play this deck. Some people are playing it with Victini EX to accelerate energy onto the Primal Groudon. Some people are going with Landorus, like Mark is a little bit. Some people are going with Robo Substitute. Whatever it is, that's, we don't have the perfect list yet. Whereas Yveltal, Seismitoad, Garbodor, the lists have settled down now. People know how to play that deck best. So we got a Silent Lab down there, and that's going to help if Ryan doesn't have a supporter, because he's not going to have access to his Jirachi. We see Mark getting 2 Groudons down on the bench, because like I said in the previous game, this matchup comes down to can Mark get 2 quick Groudons? It's as simple as that. As we see a laser with a heads. If we have 2 quick Groudons, Mark wins. Simple as that. Ryan isn't going to be able to keep up. If Ryan gets a bit of time to get set up, then it's going to make a huge difference, because now he's going to be able to essentially sit there and, when a Primal Groudon comes out, Yveltal EX is going to come and smash it in the face, and he's going to win. So we can't have a huge look at Ryan's hand there. It looks like he's got an end, so he's going to have a supporter for next turn. And it looks like Mark there, he's playing a Corinna to go for a Primal Groudon and a switch. And presumably he's just going to switch into Hawlucha because it's got free retreat. And then he's just go, or maybe even Landorus, I suppose. And then he's going to Primal Evolve, and it's going to end his turn because he doesn't have a Spirit Link down. But it doesn't really matter because he wants to attach the energy to Groudon. He's not going to be attacking with Groudon, so he doesn't need to attack. So it really doesn't matter that he's going to end his turn by Primal Evolving here. It's neither here nor there. And he plays Professor's Letter there to make sure he's got the 2 energy for Groudon. So there we see he's got the Groudon on the bench. And, oh no, he's attaching an energy to Landorus. Presumably this means he's got an energy in the discard pile. And he does have an energy in the discard pile. So now he's got an extra energy on Groudon as well. The key here, of course, is that he hasn't Primal Evolved. Now, the interesting thing about the lack of Primal Evolving is, like I've said, that Omega barrier is on the Primal Groudon. It's not on the regular Groudon. That means Ryan is able to use a Lysandra at this stage to pull up the Primal Groudon and start hammering at it and start lasering it again. And that might be what he wants to do here. Like I've said, this game really comes down to setup. Either Ryan is going to be able to stop 2 Primal Groudons coming out, or Mark's going to get them. I have faith that pretty much any deck that's well built can take down the first Primal Groudon. You might be down to 2 prizes by the time you do, as we saw in the previous game, but as long as you can take down that first Primal Groudon, if all you're doing is staring down Hawluchas and Landorus and you've got a strong non-EX attacker, then you're in fantastic shape, as we saw. So we see another attack there onto that Landorus, and now we've got 1 Robo Substitute down. And Mark really needs to decide what he's doing here. He needs to decide how he's going to play this game. Is he going to set up behind Robo Substitutes, in which case he needs more on the bench, or is he going to go full on Landorus? If he's going full on Landorus, he doesn't need 2 Hawlucha on the bench. They're taking up precious bench space. If he's going full on Landorus, then he really needs a second Landorus down. But his bench seems a little bit clogged up here, depending on what he's going to do. Now, the good news is we've now got free energy on that Primal Groudon. So, on that Primal Groudon, so he's going to be ready to go next turn. Or is there 4 energy on that? No, there are only 3 energy there. And now he puts a Hawlucha up, and I'm not sure why he's putting the Hawlucha up. Because if Ryan is able to play a Laser Verbank here, or he even hits heads on a laser and Mark doesn't hit his switch, and, you know, he stays asleep, this means that he's not guaranteed the attack. If he puts up the Robo Substitute here, then he's going to be able to essentially discard that Robo Substitute or let it be killed, and he's got the Primal Groudon ready to go next turn. By putting the Hawlucha active, he's inviting Ryan to take a prize. Ryan can go Laser Verbank here, or there's a chance that he's going to play a laser and the Hawlucha is going to stay asleep, in which case Mark needs to hit a switch, or else he's going to have a Primal Groudon with 4 energy on the bench, and he's not going to be able to attack, and the Hawlucha is going to die from poison coming into Ryan's turn, meaning he can hit another Pokemon. Although, having said that, at that stage you could just put the Robo Substitute up. Either way, Mark's got the Primal Groudon on the bench. He knows it's not being Lysandra'd into the active position. He's going to have the 4th energy next turn. What he really needs here is the Robo Substitute active, because the only thing that can go wrong here, and he's gotten lucky, because there was no laser, but I think it was a risky play there. It's worked out for him, but I don't think he should have put that active. Now, this is a very good play from Mark. He's doing exactly the right thing. He calls up and kills the Yveltal. And what we've been talking about in this game so far is that the Yveltals can take down Primal Groudon. Seismitoad, and remember the Omega barrier stops Hypnotoxic Laser working on Primal Groudon. That means that Seismitoad with a Muscle Band maxes out at a whopping 50 damage. Primal Groudon's got 240 HP. No way Ryan is going to win this game attacking with Seismitoad. Now, Ryan is going to need 2 strong energy to one-hit KO. No, sorry, he's going to need 3 strong energy to one-hit KO an Yveltal, a regular Yveltal, because he essentially needs to do 150 damage because of the because of the resistance. Or he can put a stadium down. Otherwise, he needs 3 strong energy because it's looking like he's not playing Muscle Band at this stage. So at this stage, this is all he needs to do. Just take out the EXs and he's going to be fine. I wasn't a fan of the previous play by not putting the Robo Sub up, but it worked out. He's got the Primal Groudon, and now the clock is on just like it was in the previous game. Can Mark get a second Primal Groudon set up? Ryan is on a bit of a clock here, but if he uses some non-EX attackers, he's playing a computer search there, if he can get some good non-EX attackers set up, then he's going to be fine. He can chip away with, say, a couple of non-EX Yveltal while setting up an Yveltal, and then get the KO. And then if Mark doesn't have a second, and presumably that's what Ryan's going for here, he's got a float stun on the active Yveltal. He's going to be wanting to attack with the benched one that's got a muscle band doing 50 damage, putting energy on a benched Yveltal EX, and it does, yes, that is exactly what he's gone for. He attaches an energy to that. He can now retreat into the other Yveltal. He can attack for 50, but crucially get an energy on the Yveltal. And Mark here needs to KO that Yveltal. If Mark KOs the Yveltal, it should give him enough time to get another Primal Groudon set up. And we see the energy on the bench there. And Mark here needs a Lysandra, because otherwise, that, you know, he's already down to 190 HP. Now, because he's on 190 HP, oh no, it seems like he's on, there's more than that, in fact, there's a bunch of damage on there. Now, he plays the VS Seeker, he needs to go for a Lysandra here, take out the Yveltal. Now, there is no stadium down at the moment. That Yveltal won't die. He'll do 120 damage because I think there's 2 strong energy on there. But that will leave Yveltal with 50 HP left, which means a Horlichart with a single fighting energy will be able to KO the Yveltal, and then then Mark's down to 2 prizes, Ryan's down to 4 prizes, and it essentially means that Mark has lost 1 turn of attaching, but he's gone for a Corinna here, which I don't really understand, because Ryan, I think at this stage, that Yveltal is already doing 7 times 20. It's essentially 20 for every energy, plus 20 for Yveltal. So Yveltal's got 3, Groudon's got 4, he's doing 140 damage. It looks like there's 60 damage already on him, so all he's going to need is a double colourless energy, or a muscle band and a single dark energy, and he's going to be able to KO that Mega Primal Groudon next turn. Not only that, but with only 2 strong energy, he's only doing 120 to the Yveltal, so he's not even KOing the Yveltal at this stage. So going for the Corinna instead, Mark's in a position where he's going to do 120 damage and not get a KO. Next turn, Ryan needs a double colourless, or he needs a dark energy and a muscle band, and then he can just come up and KO the Primal Groudon. I can't see exactly how much damage it's got on there. The camera isn't perfect. But he can then KO that Primal Groudon. And then that means that he's going to be, in a position where Mark has very few viable attackers. He can do 60 with or maybe 80 if he's got a strong energy, with Horlucha. And then Ryan is going to do exactly what he did in the previous game. And he's going to run through him using an Yveltal EX. But no, he's gone for that attack. And I think this is going to be the turning point in the game. I think this is the moment where Mark's going to lose. Now, we know he played a VS Seeker for the Corinna, and we know he had a Lysandra in his discard pile, because he played it to KO the previous Yveltal. Ryan's now doing the maths, and assuming that there's 50 or 60 damage on there as we think there is, he's going to be working out that he needs a DCE or an Energy Muscle Band. And he's just rearranging it there. So he's having a look at the Primal Groudon. And, I do think that was a misplay from Mark there, because here, and we have to try and do this when we play Pokemon, we have to try and kind of think ahead a few turns. And if we look forward at what's going to happen, Ryan is likely to get the KO on Primal Groudon at this stage. Now, the reason he played an Escape Rope was essentially, Escape Rope doesn't affect Primal Groudon, Omega Barrier blocks effects of trainers. However, it still affects Ryan's Pokemon, so it essentially acts as a switch. He switches into the non-dead Yveltal for the very simple reason of, that Primal Groudon's doing 120 damage to fighting resistant Pokemon. So now Ryan is hoping he's going to survive for another turn, and he's going to play a Colress for 10. If he draws what he needs, and we see the double colourless there, if he draws what he needs, he's going to be able to free retreat the Yveltal using the Float Stone, and there we see the double colourless energy. Oh, and just almost for the insult, we see a max potion there, so Mark's previous attack did nothing. Now we're going to get the KO on the Primal Groudon using the Yveltal EX, and now Mark is in a terrible, terrible position. Again, we're back to the previous discussion. Horlicher is going to free hit KO an Yveltal, by which stage Ryan's going to be down to 1 prize and Mark's going to be down to 2. He needs 3 more energy onto that Groudon to turn it into a Primal Groudon to be KOing, and at this stage it looks like Ryan has got the match all sewn up. I don't see what Mark can do here. There is a Jirachi to be killed on the bench, but Ryan's only got... He's got to take 2 more EXs, not just 1, so he needs to deal with that Yveltal EX. And with Horlicher maxing out at 80 damage with strong energy, assuming only 1 energy attachment, because he needs to be attacking every turn. If we see Horlicher at maxing out at 80 damage, he's not even 2-hit KOing the Yveltal. And that Yveltal is going to take the rest of the prizes. There goes a Silent Lab, which does more harm than good at this stage, because Silent Lab turns off Horlicher's ability, meaning that resistance does get taken into account, and Ryan's already played his Jirachi, so Stardust Song couldn't be used anyway. However, of course, Ryan needs that stadium in play for Primal Groudon, and there's the Lysandra, and that is really it. Mark's plan there, and it was a decent plan, it was his that was his win condition. His plan was to, and there's the 1-hit KO, and that really is going to be game here. The plan was, I'm going to play the Silent Lab so that I've got a stadium in play, and I'm just going to hide behind Robo Substitutes while I build up my second Primal Groudon. If I can essentially stop, if Ryan cannot hit a Lysandra or a VS Seeker for a Lysandra, then I can just leave Robo Substitutes active and he's attacking with Horlicher, but it's far too late for that plan. Like I've said, there were times in the game it was worth it, but I really don't think this is now. He would have had the stadium down ready, and all Ryan could do was just replace it, not get rid of it. So, Silent Lab wasn't a terrible play there if he was not attacking with Horlicher. And he could try and just leave and you see you got 3 Robo Subs there. So there was a situation that Ryan whiffs the Lysandra, Mark is then able to attach enough energy to the Groudon that he's then able to bring it up, discard Silent Lab doing 200 damage, 1-hit KOing the Yveltal, and then getting the win. Of course, that was going to take a couple of turns to come to fruition, and Ryan could have been building up another Yveltal to KO the Primal Groudon when it came up. So even that plan, essentially, by the time Mark attached enough energy to get the KO with Primal Groudon, Ryan was going to be able to attach enough energy to Yveltal to just return KO it, and he would have won the game there and then, because Ryan's got 2 prizes left, and Mark's got 4. I think this game really came down to 2 things. First of all, I have to point out the VS Seeker for Corinna play, which I do think was the real turning point in the game. I'm not saying Mark would have won with that, but I am saying he would have taken down the Yveltal with a Horlicher the following turn and put himself in a much better position. But also, Ryan's playing a very fast, consistent deck. And Mark, as I've said, he needs to get 2 Primal Groudon out to win this match. 1 Primal Groudon is rarely enough to win games, especially against good players, and Mark concedes there. There's nothing he can do. That Horlicher's going down next game. Next turn. It's unfortunate, but unfortunately that is the way it goes. Mark clearly had a good deck there, and it was brilliant seeing that Groudon list, and he played it mostly very, very well, but unfortunately, and there's the Lysandra's trump card that he was clearly looking for, stuck in his prizes. But unfortunately, it came down to in both games he couldn't get that second Primal Groudon, and that's really what it came down to. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like, comment, tell your friends, all of that good stuff. We will be back in the next day or two with round 5 of the tournament, where we will again see Ryan Moorhouse's Yveltal Seismitoad Garbodor deck, but we're going to see it against Tamal Cameron's Executor deck. And if you're wondering about Executor, come back and watch this video in a couple days' time when you're going to be able to see it in all its lovely glory. Thank you very much for watching. I shall see you all again very soon.